you all for coming out tonight. Welcome to our 2015 Madison Mayoral Forum. My name is Molly Stentz. I'm with WORT Community Radio here in Madison, and we're very happy. To sponsor this forum ahead of the primary, along with our community partners here at Fountain of Life Covenant Church, Dane County NAACP, Race to Equity Project, the Coalition of Wisconsin Aging Groups. We are very pleased to have all of you here tonight. So, we've got a great forum. Here's how it's going to work. Each panelist will ask a question of each of our candidates. And the candidates will each have a minute to respond. We'll start with opening statements, 2 minutes for each of the candidates. I also want to let you know we do have a sign language interpreter here available for your use. So there's some seats reserved near the front if anyone would like. Please come on up. So let me introduce our panel. To my right is Erica Nelson. Erica is the program director of the Race to Equity Project. Many of you know she coordinated the publication of the Race to Equity report, which I think opened the eyes of many here in Madison about the racial disparities that we face. Next to Erica is Reverend Dr. Alex G. Many of you know Alex is the pastor here at Fountain of Life, also the president and founder of the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development and the Justified Anger Coalition, and our host tonight. Thank you. And then we have on the end Nino Amato. Nino is the vice president of the Dane County chapter of the NAACP and also the president of the Coalition of Wisconsin Aging Groups. So those are your panelists this evening who will be asking questions. We will have audience participation following the panelists' questions, and we're taking your questions online as well at our website, wortfm.org. We are broadcasting live over the radio, so welcome to all our radio listeners and anyone viewing on our website right now. And welcome to all of you. So now we will start with our candidates. We have all 5 candidates running for office here tonight, and we drew numbers out of a cup to determine who would go first. So we are using a democratic process, and we determined that Christopher Daly will start us off with introductions for the evening.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Fountain of Life Church and everyone for being here. Yeah, I was the lucky number 1. So, a little bit about myself. I've lived in Madison for 7 years. I graduated from UW about 2 years ago. And I really love this place. I found a lot of amazing people here, and I found that this is a city which has per capita the most intelligent and compassionate citizens of anywhere that I've been. For the last few months I've been involved in numerous activist events and actions, and it's taken me a few years to really get a good bearing on where we are as a society today. I used to work on the Capitol Square, and every day I would step outside and I would see people living on the street. And it really stuck in my head. I wanted to know how they got there. I wanted to know what we weren't doing and what we could do better. And that was really the impetus for me to run. In the process, I like many of my generation, I have been cynical in the past. I've said there's no use in paying attention to this vitriolic, dichotomous politics. And a few, and for a long time that was true, but one day I reached a tipping point and I decided that I had to get involved. I had to speak up, and I had to speak out, and I had to go out on the streets, and I had to get other people involved, and that's really my passion, and that's why I'm here tonight. And well, thank you again.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank just everyone who's helping to sponsor and put this forum together, and especially those of you who are attending or watching. In January of 2007, having unfortunately lost an election for mayor in 2003, I asked to address one of the civic clubs here in Madison because I was very concerned, and I don't know if this chart is clear to everyone, but this chart reflects, not at all, okay. This chart reflects the growth in the number of children receiving free and reduced lunches in the city of Madison. During my previous tenure as mayor, that number had increased at about 5%, 6% over a 7-year, 8-year period. And then, at that time in 2007, it had really escalated. And I was deeply concerned that we were not paying attention to the growing poverty in Madison. And as you know, I again decided to run for mayor 4 years later in 2011, saying we had to deal with the city's financial problems so that we can then tackle the problems of poverty and equity. We've now got data that shows what's happened in the 2 full years where we've had an opportunity to budget and make changes in Madison. We have a long way to go, but from 2011 to 2013, we've had significant progress in closing disparity in unemployment and in income. I'd like 4 more years to work with you to further this job.
Thank you, Paul. Richard.
Hello, my name is Richard Brown. I want to thank everybody. A lot of people know me around here. I want to be your mayor. I really, really want to be your mayor. And I've been working hard for the last 30 years trying to help this community. And you know, my fiscal background, I worked for the Legislative Audit Bureau as an auditor, business manager in the Dover Mental Health Institution. Then I became the director of operation in the Dover Mental Health Institution. And then I became a budget analyst over the DD centers, all the DD centers over the state. Southern Wisconsin Center, Northern Wisconsin Center, Wisconsin, Southern Wisconsin, Northern and Central Wisconsin Center. And then I became an accountant for DPI, Department of Public Instructions. A Title I accountant, no child left behind. So I got your education, I got the strong fiscal. And then in the community while I was doing all this, I coached the football team, 8 years for the Southside Raiders. Some of you babies, I coached them. And then after that, I went to the high school and I coached at the high school. And I just seen 2 kids get scholarships that was kicked off the team that I had coached to get back on. And now they went to St. Cloud in Minnesota. This is what I do, and I want to help this community. I've been doing a lot of things in this community, and I love this community. You know, I got awarded in 2011 the J.C. Wright Humanitarian Award. And then also, I gave you Let's Go to Church of Heart and Soul. I personally paid for that, out of my pockets. And what I'm trying to say is that I've done everything that I could do. And our racial disparities are not bad. We got 1,000 babies. 1,000 babies that's homeless in our school. I don't know what Paul's talking about, because when he started, it was only 700 and something. So these are our babies. We gotta do something. And that's why I'm running for mayor, to do something.
Thank you.
I'm Scott Resnick. I look at a motto that I came into office with 4 years ago on city council, how I lead my business. I am committed to your success. It's how I work every interaction in my life. And I look at this city, our city. It's a community that we're supposed to be able to engage in. A place that's supposed to listen to us, and it's a place that's supposed to benefit us.
This is a great progressive community. I look at it as the reason why I came here for school. My father worked 2 jobs so he could make sure that he could cover a little bit of my tuition. My mother still works 3 jobs today. And I was able to afford certain opportunities. Out of school, I was able to start a company. We now employ 22 people. 4 years ago, I was able to run for a public office. And as the youngest member of the city council, I was able to be elected into leadership. But what I know is not everybody in this community shares in those opportunities. We have major struggles. Richard acknowledged that over 1,000 students are homeless in the Madison School District. 75% of our students of color are in poverty. We have individuals that are sleeping outside of our doorsteps of City Hall, not for any other reason, but we don't have the political will to find housing for them. That's a moral failing of our community. I think that we need to look at fresh leadership, new ideas. We need to step up and continue the conversation, but not let us forget what are the true values and compassion of our community. I think that we need to listen, we need to respect one another, and we need to work together, because I know that we can accomplish so much more. I know we can live up to those values and make Madison a great place for everyone to live.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming out this evening. I'm Bridget Roniachi. I was the 2nd District Alder for 4 years, representing James Madison Park, Kenyon Park, Mansion Hill, part of State Street. Very proudly represented also Salvation Army and a number of service providers in our community that are doing fantastic work. One of the things that I saw in my district was the dynamic interaction of a neighborhood where you had everything from fraternity and sorority students to million-dollar lakefront mansions, and 3 blocks away you had the Women and Children's Shelter. I loved that neighborhood. It's very much a Jane Jacobs sidewalk ballet. And I was on the city council. I had interned for Mayor Cheslevich my last year of college and had gotten my feet wet in City Hall, actually started 10 years ago as a young college journalist. Came into City Hall and got handed some of the toughest issues any alder could be facing with the Edgewater, and looking at the redevelopment of East Washington Avenue, the Don Miller car dealership lot. GM had just pulled the dealership. Madison Dairy, the Lakes had just closed the butter plant, and I had to get to work and roll up my sleeves. I was very proud of what we were able to accomplish in that neighborhood, really working together. I'm here today, I'm running for mayor because I'm displeased at what I've seen in the mayor's office with the leadership. I have had constituents who have been very frustrated with the experience in City Hall. And if you want to see things change, you have to step up and run. The protests in 2011 showed me that very directly. You cannot just assume that good people are going to be there. So I'm running today to have pragmatic, real ideas of how very quickly we can start to move things forward. I'm sure we're going to just discuss at length, but if you got one of those little yellow slips after the debate, please look on my website. There's a lot of really good detailed policy, because I just got my master's in public policy management, so I'm a big policy nut, so I try to put a lot up there. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you to all of our candidates for joining us here. For anyone just tuning in, welcome to the mayoral debate here at Fountain of Life Church on Badger Road. Come on down, we've got a full house here, or send us your questions online at WORTFM.org. Now we're going to turn to our panelists. On my right is Ms. Erica Nelson. Erica.
Good evening. So, here's my first question. For all of us who have looked closely at the county's severe racial and ethnic disparities, we realize it will take bold action by all sectors, public, private, nonprofit, and community, to solve this problem. Given that, what do you think are the most important roles and the most important actions that the City of Madison should pursue over the next 4 years to address this problem?
And we'll start this time at the end with Oswald.
In terms of goals, there have been measurable differences in regards to household income, unemployment, academic achievement, health measurements, and simply opportunity for all Madisonians. How are we going to achieve it? We're going to achieve it the way we've done it before. And I want to be very clear, and I wish this chart had been more visible before. The point is, when I was mayor in the 1990s, we did something about this and we got it under control. This problem deteriorated after I left office, and for the first time in 20 years, it's the actions that my administration took over the last 3.5 years that has changed, by putting together the neighborhood resource teams, by cutting $17 million that wasn't necessary for a hotel so that we could do some of the things like investing in cooperatives, investing in Allied Drive, in food, in opportunity for employment and training.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Well, I haven't seen anything from anywhere in the city council or from the mayor's office, and we got a few people that are here. When I was on the county board, I'm the one that found the money and put the money in the budget to do the study, not on the disparities, but to do the study on the high incarceration rates. I'm the one that worked to reduce the dollar amount for a phone call in the jail that affected a lot of us. What I want to do is create a faith-based partnership that's going to get deep down into the community, deep engagement. I'm talking about investing $1 million into our neighborhoods. And what we want to do is create economic development zones right in our neighborhoods, just like they do everywhere else. Why don't we put $5 million in our neighborhood?
Come on now.
Why don't we put the money in the organizations where we can buy up the housing right across, for example, buy up the housing right across from Mount Zion, get people to work together, and we can, not only we can, well, I gotta finish next time, but it's there. Read my blog, read my internet, go on the internet, I'm sorry.
All power to the people! 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 We're going to move on to Scott. There will be time for questions at the end. We're going to try to get through a lot of questions. So let's keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, let me start in the 4 critical areas that I know will mean more for the community itself. It's focusing on education. It's focusing on employment. It's equitable housing. And it's community support. And that's where I would start. And in education, we know the first 1,000 days of life are critical. We need to make sure that every single student that enters the Madison School District is on equal footing with each one of their peers. We know that every single person deserves a well-paying job in our city. If you're looking for work, you should be able to find work, and it's going to take support from the community. We need to have equitable housing. And this means if you work downtown, you should be able to afford to live downtown, but also in any neighborhood that you would like. And if you're one of those individuals that needs more support, it needs to be a community, the nonprofit, the for-profit, the faith-based community, that we can rise up as a community and support those who are in need.
Thank you. Bridget.
This last year and a half, I've stepped away from the city council to get my master's degree and to travel because I'm from Madison and family's from here. I wanted to get out, I wanted to see other places, really look at and test everything, question everything that I had seen in City Hall. One of the things that I think Madison does very poorly is working with public-private partnerships, especially in the dynamic ways that I've seen in other cities like Pittsburgh, working with the foundations. I was so excited to see Michael Johnson and the Boys and Girls Club back with the Renabaum Foundation yesterday get 675 internships for our youth. I think when City Hall can partner, we can get amazing things to happen, but that isn't happening. The mayor got an award for getting 21 internships. So 675 versus 21. You know, I think it's important that we put what we need in perspective here in the community. I will counter a bit what Mayor Sagan was saying, especially since we went to bat over the Edgewater. Please do not say that $16 million for the Edgewater and TIP was in any way possible to go towards operating expenses for neighborhoods. That's not how TIP works. And the more that you tell the public that, the more angry they get when they think that that's a possibility. Right? I think it's important to... Thank you.
We'll keep going. We got lots of time. We got a lot of questions, so we'll keep going. We'll get to Christopher.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought that up because I made it out to the DW Center yesterday to see the Boys and Girls Club being presented a check of $300,000 to be put into their communities over the next 3 years. I think that's a wonderful model that we can copy. I think that it's not the mayor's role to set an idea and say this is what we're all doing. It's about a collaborative process. It's about inviting the input from the communities. It's about going into the communities and really talking with people who are on the ground and know the situation. So what I would do, and this is something that's actually kind of necessitated by my lack of pre-existing connections within the business community, within government. My candidacy represents an opportunity for Madison to come together, but the doors are open, there's seats at the table for everybody, and I need that input because I can't do it by myself. It's all of us doing it together.
Thank you. We will now take our next question from Pastor G.
Thank you. Much attention has been given to the struggling plight of African American males in Madison. So what I'd like to know is, as mayor, what will be your strategies for addressing these disparities and empowering African American males in this community?
All right, and we'll start with you this time, Richard.
Thank you. Well, first I want to say, we got to put a step to these crumbs. There's a lot of money. $300,000 is crumbs, so I want to say that. If you can give $16 million to developers, which is okay at some time, but you can give $16 million to the neighborhood where they go. What I would do when you say about the kids, I want to offer the employees in the city 4 hours a month volunteer time. They get time off to volunteer. And what we're going to do is play these things. We're going to put some in the school. We're going to put some working with the boys. But I know about working with boys because I've just been coaching for 8 years. And you know what? It's running like this. People running. And me up here on this stage is giving people hope. We got to give them hope.
I'm telling you, if we did it once, with your help, we can do it again.
Build the people, not the jail. Build the people, not the jail. Build the people, not the jail.
Okay, we're going to take our next question from Eric Nelson. Oh, sorry.
There we go again, disparities. And it's nothing new. You guys asked the question about the life I live. You just asked the question about the life I live. This is the life I live. You know what I mean? My mom, I'm the youngest of 8, okay? I'm the youngest of 8. My mom struggled washing dishes, carrying stuff up and down the steps where her feet hurt so bad. It hurt so bad that when she would come home, she would just sit down and soak her feet back was hurt. And people felt sorry for her and they helped her. They helped her. And at 14, I got my job, my first job. And that's how we solve it. We employ our kids, we employ our people. It's about economic development. It's about economics. And we gave away $1 million in studies. My office of performance analysis would probably cost about $400,000 to run, and we would save us $600,000 that could have went to disparities, none less the thousands of hours we spent on the study at the Judge Doyle Square building.
All power to the people! All power to the people!
We're going to go on to our next question. Bear with me, I'm trying to keep it even so everybody gets a different chance to go first. I'm trying to keep track of it in my head. We're going to go next to Eric Nelson.
So this is sort of building a little bit on Nino's last question and a little bit more specific. As mayor, what specifically would you do to strengthen city and county relations around this critical issue of racial equity, given what I believe everyone agrees that we need a high level of collaboration and collective action to address this problem.
This time we're starting with Bridget.
Great. I don't have time to scribble my ideas, so we'll just go for it here. I think an easy thing you can do is have joint meetings of the City Council and the County Board. I sat on the City-County Liaison Committee, and it was pulling teeth to get quorum, even of that body. The County Executive and the Mayor, along with the Council President and the head of the County Board, has to stand up and say, guys, we're all getting together, we're all meeting, we're all going to meet in the same room at the same time. That would save weeks and weeks and weeks of running around that I have seen directly on, even issues about trying to get a picture frame to put in a painting on the wall and where it went outside the City Council chamber. Like, this is what this committee has been talking about. It has not been talking about issues that are critical and important to our community. I think that also with city-county relationships, I think there was a report under Mayor Bauman about ways that the city and the county could collaborate. The Department of Public Health was about the only initiative out of that actually came about to fruition. There's a whole report of other ideas out there to bring the city and the county together. And I'm out. Thanks.
Thanks. Chris.
So this is not my area of experience exactly, but I have a few ideas about how we might be able to work with the county, especially around the issue of incarceration. I think that in the past it's been proposed that the county seek funding from Huber in order to implement work sentencing programs, which would substitute for jail time. And I know that the county board, there was a proposal made a few weeks ago, or maybe just 2 weeks ago, to propose that every employee of the city, union or not, right down to those who are currently working in the jails, would get paid for their work. And I think that this is something that we should do. We should be looking at alternatives to incarceration, which don't take people out of their communities, which don't separate them from the places that they can get employment, and which don't handicap them when they could be otherwise making money to support themselves. And so this is, I think, and you can see that on my blog. I've written extensively about this subject. Maybe that WordPress.com.
Thank you.
Thank you. A number of areas where we can do much more, and we're making progress. First, we've got to finish the work on the disparity study, which is examining contracts that go to minority business enterprises and do the work to get those contracts that are purchased with public money into the hands that are of companies that are owned by African Americans, Latinos, Asians, women-owned businesses. That's the first thing we can do. Second thing we can do is continue the collaboration regarding out-of-school time. Out-of-school time is those hours after school, on the weekends, and during the vacations, which are so critical to the development of a child. We've got most Madison out-of-school time for getting kids involved in constructive activities. Third, on the question of incarceration, we've done an examination of where are young African Americans arrested in our community. They are not arrested in their homes. They are arrested in the schools, they are arrested in the shopping centers, and they are arrested at the bus transfer points. My time is up, and I'll try to finish that with another question.
Feel the people, not the jail! Feel the people, not the jail!
All right, we're going to move on to Richard.
First, what I think we need to do is we need deep community engagement. And the way we get deep community engagement is through my faith-based partnership initiative. You see, that faith can bring us together so we can house the homeless, feed the hungry, and comfort the afflicted. You know, the community believe in the organizations. And I want to help them. And I think we can do that better. The other thing, we talk about collaboration. I'm the systems accountant for Dan County. I work for Joe. I can talk to him. I can go up there and talk to him. I'm cool with him. You know what I'm saying? And I work for Mr. Evers at the DPI, Department of Public Instructions. I work for him. And I work for the state. You know? And so, we talk about collaboration. I can bring all this together. When I was on the county board, we had 37 the old vote. I brought the budget together so I can bring people together.
Thank you. Scott?
I thank you for asking this question, which was how can the city, how we collaborate together to make sure with our millions of dollars, we are putting it towards a unified position. And it's about talking to the county executive, someone who I can call today. Our DA is right here in the room because he cares about these issues. Our county board members care, our city council members care, but it's only when you show each other respect. A number of the problems that we have is when we don't show each other respect and we don't listen to one another. I believe that if we start, right now the county is going to be engaging on one of the largest initiatives in the county's history to focus on racial disparities. My counterparts on the board are working on these proposals, and the city, instead of trying to set its own path, needs to say to ourselves, how do we work together for the greater good to make sure our money is well spent?
Listen to the people! Listen to the people! Listen to the people!
Listen to the people!
Listen to the people!
We'd love to listen to the people. We'd love to get some questions from our panelists so we can get to the audience participation segment. So we're going to keep moving along, if that's all right with y'all, and keep getting more questions from our panelists here. Are we ready? All right. Pastor G.
When we talk about economic development in this community, particularly for African Americans, we think of just jobs. But for people who have jobs, they question where are the opportunities in Madison for being able to generate wealth and to be able to establish entrepreneurship. There are many of you African American business owners, and I've asked what has been your strongest block in establishing your business. They've said dealing with city government. And so my question is, it appears that South Madison, a place where I've grown up and where I'm a property owner, is increasingly becoming gentrified. And so I want to know that as mayor, what will you do to ensure that invested individuals in this community, black individuals in this community, will have a voice and a piece of the economic development?
We are at Christopher.
So I have a book at home. It's called Women's Images of Men, and it's a feminist critique in art theory. And in that book, there is a picture of a number of old, fat, white men sleeping at a business conference while a presenter is presenting. And the caption reads, "This begs the question: do women really want to enter the men's world of business?" And I think that this can be applied to the question of race as well. Do we want to include people in a system which is already in place, or do we want to make a new system? And so we need to work together to make industries which are alternatives to the same old, same old. I mean, we know about the education disparities, so that means that for a number more years, like black children will maybe not have access to these tech jobs and these medical jobs until we can turn that around. And so we need to be talking about what we can do right now, and that is creating alternatives in the workforce. My personal idea, urban agriculture. Anybody can do it, and it's something that connects us back to the land, and it is control of land, which is really central to the control of people.
Thank you.
If you want to own a business as a plumbing company, an electrical contractor, or any of these skilled professions, it's necessary that you be a plumber, that you be an electrician, that you understand and have the skill to work in an HVAC company. The problem we've got in Madison is that you can't own a business like that if you haven't had the experience. And one of the things that we've got to do is open up the trades. There are programs going on now where we are working with labor unions and with contractors. We have got city funding for a number of activities in terms of cooperative ownership. And these are opportunities that are going to change the face of Madison business in the coming years.
Thank you. Richard?
Thank you. Well, first thing we need to do is we need to hold the line on these taxes. And what I'm trying to say is that there's some financial things that I see that is just ridiculous. We don't have a good handle on our fiscal situation. And once we get a good handle on our fiscal situation, which is real soon, then we can take them savings and put them in the community. And there won't be nobody complain about that because it's not costing anything. And we can do these things. I found partnership agreements. You know, I was on the Dane County Housing Authority, and you know, the CDA, Community Development Authority, and the Dane County Housing Authority can combine and save a whole lot of money and make things better and be a one-stop shop. And then we take that money and take them savings and we put them directly into our community. And there's a lot of things like that. And I know I can identify at least $5 million that need to go into our communities for economic development and growth. You know, I ran an incubator, and the biggest thing was that every business that was up there was undercapitalized. We need to put some money in our city,
True.
our community.
That's true.
There's a perception of South Madison that business leaders don't exist in South Madison. You end up finding the communities outside of South Madison try to create the jobs that are found here. It's people who are looking for an investment opportunity that will come in and try to set up a smooth line, instead of looking right here in this community. You know, I have found some of the best entrepreneurs that I know that are right here in these neighborhoods. I take a look at it and say, yes, it's about finding capital, it's about finding opportunities, but truly, it's about exposing the great richness of the human capital that's sitting right here. Well, we brought a group of CEOs over to the Urban League. Out of the 12 that we brought to the tech companies, it was the first time that 11 of them had experienced South Madison. We need to change that perception. We need to show that there are great people in this community, that we can find capital for them to start businesses, and that there can be some great economic entrepreneurs inside this community.
When I came in on the city council, I had empty parking lots on East Washington Avenue and factories going out and things that had sat vacant for 20 years. And in 4 years of my time in the city council, Shopbot moved in, we got the ground broken on the Don Miller lot, and I look at Park Street and I see the same potential there. And, you know, I talk with family members who've lived here for many years, and they fall into those stereotypes. And I think it's time for that fresh set of eyes, fresh set of leadership to step up and say, we can do this. Park Street is uniquely positioned within the city. It's a huge opportunity, and the fact that more people don't see this is a real problem for me. And so we need to have economic development zones. The Thorstad's lot, Park Street is one of them. To the question, I think looking at the capital revolving fund for small business owners is key. Also, we do not have yet a one-stop shop for folks. And I've heard stories of small business owners trying to open up in Madison, and Madison giving them the runaround compared to Sun Prairie and other places. We need to have a team of, you could say, small business agents to help people facilitate that process interacting with someone. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our next question from Nina O'Mara.
Very same government agencies, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin, were created under the following rules: to protect our environment for our children and future generations, and to protect residential and small business ratepayers from price gouging and monopolies, have in essence been hijacked by the very same including industries. And if it wasn't for the city of Madison interjecting into that rate case, along with the NAACP, Repower Madison, a number of environmental groups, and Coalition Wisconsin Aging groups, they would have had a 600% increase in the base rate, even though they had the highest returns and highest effort. My question is, how do you hold MGE accountable in the next rate case? And most importantly, how are you going to hold them accountable for the sustainable plan that Madison signed with MGE to reduce their energy consumption by 50% by using energy efficiency and conservation, when in fact in the last rate case, they threw out people who had solar energy.
Yes.
Right, we will start on the end this time with Paul.
Can anyone tell me when was the last time the city of Madison challenged MG&E in a rate case up until we did it this past year? How many of you recall when we took on MG&E in the 1970s and stopped the Lake Koshkonong nuclear power plant, for which MG&E shareholders are not thankful was never built? I'm going to be there with the city attorney, with the city council, enforcing every agreement we have with MG&E and pushing and arguing for public support for not just solar energy, but instead of paying a measly 6 or 7 cents per kilowatt for energy created by biodigesters, paying a fair market price of 12 and 15 cents per kilowatt, when you're paying more than that.
Thank you. Richard?
Thank you. It's nothing more different than what happens to us every time they raise the parking fee, or they raise your garbage fee, or they raise any other fee. It's regressive. And we pay a bigger percentage of our income because we're poor. So you pay a bigger percentage of your income. And that's the game. See, what we have to do, and not just MG&E, and you know I'll hold MG&E to it anyway. We'll hold all these companies, and I'll work hard because it affects us more than anybody else who's poor. You know, it affects us. So that question is an easy answer for me. What we need to do is hold our city council and the city office to not raising all these fees and different fees. It's another tax. It's the worst tax that we get, and that's what they do. You know what I'm saying? So I'll fight it.
Thank you. Scott?
The mayor and I agree. We made sure that the city council, the mayor's office, we were all on a unified front to fight the ratepayer case. If I remember correctly, it was unanimous. No one disagreed on this issue. Now, what it does come back to is how are we going to be accountable for ourselves? Just like Richard said, it comes back to all of the fees that we put on our constituents. It also ensures that we're living up to our own sustainable nature. It's not just talking to MG&E to say, why should they be sustainable? What can we do as a city to make our buildings more energy efficient? To make sure that when we put money into sustainability, that it's not gutted later for other priorities. And it's to make sure that we have a fuel-efficient economy that represents the 21st century. Because in the end, that investment today is going to be cost savings tomorrow that we're all going to be able to benefit from.
Thank you. Bridget?
I think it's incredibly important to stand up and fight. I think it's very much important that when you do that, you fight to get results. So part of this is it's a rugby pile, and you push the ball as far down the field with as many people as possible, right? But then it's also you have to be smart and savvy and take it to the shareholders. You have to look at other towns and municipalities, and you have to put a lot of pressure on MG&E. I was pretty amazed at how they completely blew decades of good public will over this. One of the frustrating things of the reality of governing is that there are things happening in our state right now that make us feel very small and make me white-hot angry. You look at what's going on in the State House today, taking out the Wisconsin idea. We have to help those who the market leaves behind, whether this is Lyft and Uber or whether it's MG&E or whether it's the Republicans. Madison has to stand up for its citizens. So that means that we have to prioritize those in our funding decisions, and we have to look at helping those with their utilities. We should do that, and we should look to fund incentivizing renewables.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you for the question. I personally have been out with MG&E on the pavement in front of their, or Repower Madison, I'm sorry, I'm with MG&E. But yeah, I've been out with Repower Madison protesting this rate case and trying everything we can to get things changed. It was an absurd proposal, and we found out, that that the proposal was invented by some think tank in Texas and sent here, and they cold called people throughout Wisconsin in order to get this done, and then they tricked them into thinking, oh yeah, I'll sign this paper that says yes, I would like my rates raised, please. And when we found these people, that was not the case. So I mean, yeah, I will go toe to toe with MG&E. I am fully prepared to do that, and I think that we should be moving towards municipalization by any means possible. It may take a few years, but I do have a plan to do it, and more on that later.
Our next question from Erica.
This is a final question, and so the three of us have agreed on this question, so it's being asked on behalf of all of us. So while Madison has been known for promoting community policing and diversifying our police force ranks, nonetheless, the statistics on our arrest, detention, conviction, and incarceration rates reveal that extreme racial disparities persist in our law enforcement justice systems, both for juveniles and adults. What new policies or approaches would you pursue to reduce these disparities and increase community trust in our police and courts?
Come on now.
I'll start with you, Richard.
Okay. All right. Well, I think what we need to do is we need actually more training and implicit bias training. So, you know, we need to know that, I mean, we just need more training. I wouldn't go with the body cameras or anything. I would take more money. I would put that money into training. And what I would do is I would get more, I think, what was the police that investigated police internal affairs? I think we want to put more money in investigating other bad cops. And if we can investigate them, and then once we find them guilty, and of course we want an outside investigation too. We deal with them swiftly and severely. And we got to do it real hard. Yes. We got to just make a point. Well, you know, I believe that we can do better. We can do a lot better. And I think this movement that we got is opening up a lot of eyes. This young movement, this movement is opening up a lot of eyes. And in time, when they get their stuff together and they move in the right direction and they focus, they're going to be very, very powerful and very powerful. I say we support it.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Move on to staff.
The statistics are embarrassing. They're embarrassing as a Madison resident. They're embarrassing for any of the tourists who read the statistics. And when nationwide, when we look at that, we should all be ashamed.
Yes.
When we look at what we can do here in our city, we have a police chief who we need to be able to talk to.
Yes, we do.
We have a community here who's protesting in the streets because they are sick of what's going on.
Yes, we are.
And the way that they've grown up in this community, and here are the outcomes.
Yes.
It's going to start taking conversations, but we're going to need to start to talk about action to show that we have hope. And for those individuals who are incarcerated, to make sure when they get out, there's a community that can support them, to make sure that they have housing, to make sure that they can find work, and to ensure that they don't go back into the penal system, because that's how we're going to break the cycle.
Build the people, not the jail. Build the people, not the jail.
Bridget.
I have to follow up. I agree with Richard, especially around police training and sensitivity, but also having represented some pretty high-strung constituents. I think that at times there's also a community engagement component to that training that really needs to happen. About why are people calling the cops? What's happening? There's a community conversation that I think very much needs to happen, because I think that folks who are young and black get the police calling them more than their peers who are white. I think we have to have a very real conversation about that. I'm also very interested in what City Hall can do for the pipeline and looking at education and how that fits in. There's very good research coming out of Johns Hopkins looking at 7th graders and directly the correlation between folks dropping out of school and ending up in jail about things that they're seeing early in middle school. So I think the City Hall side is one part, but there's very much a bully pulpit that the mayor's office has that we need to have a very real conversation.
Yes!
Okay. So I attended Diane at the West Town Mall before the holiday. And I was proud to do it. Richard, what you said about body cams, it was absolutely right on the mark. When they can be turned off, even when we have videos of black people being shot and killed, and grand juries refuse to indict, we see that this problem is not going to be solved with technology, and it would be a waste of money to try to do.
Yes!
And so what we need to do is put the pressure on at the level of the judicial area. We need to have elected citizen review boards for any police officers and any excessive use of force incidents. And that is elected review boards. I will repeat that for those listening on the radio. And we need to have public hearings. We can't have this done behind closed doors. There has to be accountability for police officers, just like there are for elected officials. And that's where the key is. I mean, that's how they know that they're going to get some. They're not going to get away with it if it happens.
True.
The problem is far deeper than a police department. It has to do with equity. It has to do with economic and social justice. When we talk about the young people in our community, and they're predominantly being arrested in places where young people are, schools, shopping malls, bus transfer places, we've got to look at what is going on in those places and why kids are going from those places into the criminal justice system. Now, we've made 2 changes in the city in regards to disposition of these cases on an experimental basis. First, this coming year, there's going to be a peer review here in the South Side, South Police District. Secondly, we're making changes in the disposition cases in the city municipal court. I guess my time's up. I'll try to get to the end.
Thank you. So now we are going to move on to the audience question portion of the evening. And I know we have some folks here from Simpson Street Free Press that I want to acknowledge. Oh, we're moving mics. So we'll take questions online from those of you here. I know we have managing editor Deirdre Green here with us. Thank you, Deirdre. And feel free, we've got another mic over here, so feel free to step up and ask your questions. Thank you.
So my question relates to the issues of academic achievement and racial disparities. As you know, these topics are important for all voters in Madison, but particularly to young people and families of color. My organization believes that this community's glaring achievement gaps are not just a school issue. Rather, these achievement gaps, they have to be seen as a community issue. Achievement gaps this bad are definitely something that's really important to everybody who's here. And one example is the out of school time. And we think that it's something that everybody in our city should have or play a role in particular the city government. So I'm particularly concerned about how the downtown leaders view after-school academics and the principle of college readiness. For instance, we know that you, Mayor Soglin, have voiced your commitment to neighborhoods, and we appreciate that. But as my organization has participated in the MOST initiative, the Madison Out of School Time, we see repeatedly that your representatives insist over and over again on taking out the term college readiness and replacing it with a more vague term community ready. And that makes us very apprehensive. Perhaps the downtown community does not fully understand the gravity of what we're dealing with in our home neighborhoods. And this question is open to everybody. Another example I'll reference really quick is from Alder Resnick's website, which proposes a new soccer and basketball complex at the road. Again, I know that you are also very committed to our city's future. But as a longtime resident on Badger Road, we already have stuff like that. And I think that this proposal makes me anxious as well. So I feel like basketball is not for achievement games, and that these kinds of examples make me wonder about the city's urgency index. If you are elected mayor, this is to anybody, with what sense of urgency will you address issues of academic achievement? And what solutions do you see that will move the needle on the crucial racial disparities issues our city has so far been unable to address?
Random question, who do we start with? Scott, yeah. All right, we'll go to everyone will answer.
So that was some question. Every question we wanted and any of the responses that were able to get, but it was a phenomenal question.
Yeah.
So what I look at is the standards what it is to get any student into the University of Wisconsin. And I look at that as the gold standard. And regardless of what Scott Walker wants to say today or tomorrow, I think that's what we should always strive to. And as a downtown alder, what I would ask each student is, when did you have internet access? And what you'll find is almost every single student, now we'll say middle school, they had computer access in their home and computer literacy from a very early age. What I'm dedicated to bring forward is a proposal within the first 2 years, and we're going to start well before I'm off the city council, if I can help it, to make sure that we have internet in any school, in any home that's on free and reduced lunch, to start off pilot projects within the 7 sites, hopefully by the end of the year, in the fall, and be able to bring that to the entire city. Now the internet, it doesn't solve all the options and all the problems, but it's one tool that bridges that gap.
Thank you. Bridget?
I guess I'll go a little analog, even though I just got my master's from Carnegie Mellon, and I see very real how technology, they had gotten rid of the computer lab, we all had to have laptops, right? But here's the deal. So my mom's sitting in the audience here. My mom was a librarian in Madison Public Schools. And I look at our library system here, especially looking at what the Carnegie Library System in Pittsburgh does, you know, Andrew Carnegie, the Carnegie Library System. And you look at what they're able to do with their youth services. We are nowhere close to anything what we should be doing. It's about homework clubs, it's about tutors. You look at all the young professionals coming to the city, right? Folks my age, I'm 31. Nobody's asking me to come out and volunteer, to come help tutor, to say, hey, if you have like a Thursday night, you can come out to the library. So I think those are those types of things that don't cost a lot of money, and the technology is important, but it comes with a lot of cost. These are things that we can reach out to, again, with that bully pulpit of the mayor's office, and get people here. Because what's happening right now is everybody stays very segregated in their neighborhood or in their social circle or on Facebook, and they're not engaging.
So my answer would be yes, we need better internet access. Yes, we need better nutritional options for kids, but one thing that we really need is more black teachers. We should be recruiting for this. I think that Madison has an opportunity. We can work with the university, we can work with other accredited universities around the country to do this. But at the same time, let's say, is the end goal to get them into the university, or is it to get people truly educated? Because a university education is great, but if you choose a track that's not a really high career type right now at the moment, then you are going to be saddled with crippling debt. Me too. And right now. And like there's a huge debt crisis looming in our generation today. And so we need to start thinking about what is the end goal? Is that all that we're driving at, or are we trying to do more?
Thank you.
There's nothing a mayor can do that's important to the city as supporting the educational environment of our public schools. That's number one. And one of the reasons that the quality of education deteriorates is because of the deterioration of the neighborhoods. That's why we put the focus on stronger neighborhood centers. on supporting faith-based organizations that are doing work in the neighborhoods. Building libraries. Look what we did in Meadowwood with the Meadow Ridge Library expansion. I was in there a couple of nights ago. The computers are all being used. Now, what's critical here in answering your question has to do with, are we preparing people for college or for community? And we have a disagreement then, because I think we have to prepare people for life. Not everyone is going to college. And the most important thing is this: the purpose of education is not just economics. The governor doesn't understand that. The Republicans in the legislature don't understand it. The purpose is to learn, to think, to have opportunity. That's what education is about.
Thank you.
Well, I talked about the volunteerism that I want to offer our city employees. We figure if half of them took advantage of it, we might have like 4,000 hours of volunteerism in our schools. But we got to equate that and put it together and create a system that get somebody smart, like Scott, to create an app that you can connect the schools and people can see whether their kids are absent or whether they're in school. We gotta do some really heavy work on truancy. And it's a tough thing, but we got to keep the kids in school. And if we keep our kids in school, it's going to help the whole community. So I believe I can get the private sector to partnership on this, because if we keep them in school, you take away a lot of the juvenile crime in the daytime. That'll work for the disparities. At least they won't be able to be profiled because they'll be in school. They might get profiled in school, but at least not on the street. And so what that'll do is, I think that we can do things like that. And we got to do a big campaign on truancy. And then we got to have some sanctions. But we got to have some diversions too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Deirdre. We got a lot of people asking questions. That's awesome. I want to ask you if you will direct your question. If you have a particular candidate in mind, then we can go through and get as many questions as possible. Thanks, Brandy.
All power to the people.
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 Thank you for having us and opening up this opportunity. I just want to first say that I think a lot of you guys, when you answered the lady's last question, that you missed the question. And I think a lot of it is because there's some disconnect between what you believe to be the issues to what the issues are. When I say that, I mean that what we're talking about, which you guys have addressed, are symptoms of a bigger issue. Symptoms and just manifestations of something deeper, and that we keep avoiding, and that is institutionalized racism. That is white supremacy. Our systems are not broken, they are fixed. So my question to you, and I also want to address this to, all you guys, so I hope they let you answer it. But I am a co-founder of the Young Gifted and Black Coalition, and we have been working diligently to have our voices heard and to have the voiceless heard. And what we've been receiving in return is a lot of emotions and a lot of ego, a lot of responses based on making this personal. So my question to you is, what are you going to do as the current mayor or the future mayor of the city of Madison, Wisconsin, to address our demands? And let me remind you of our demands. That is to release 350 black people from Dane County Jail who are currently incarcerated due to crimes of poverty. Our second demand is to end solitary confinement because it is inhumane and it is torture. Let's go. Demand is for you to invest money directly into programs and initiatives led by the black community, for the black community. And that doesn't, I love Urban League, I respect all these big other organizations that do programming, but programming has to come from the people, by the people. The people are most effective, and that's why your answers were off, because you're not listening to the people. And another thing in our demand is, what are you going to do to address the 8 million that's sitting currently in the PBJ? And we keep saying, well, that's a city thing, that's a county thing. What are you going to do to reinvest that money? What are you going to do to deal with the issues proactively and actively in an urgent sense? Because our kids can't wait 10 or 15 years for these so-called committees and programs to work. We need action now. People need food now. People need opportunity now. And people need resources now. So what are you going to do?
All right, let's get some answers.
All power to the people! All power to the people!
Bridget.
I'll start here. All to get things moving here. So we have to have good conversations. What's really important in getting through
Bold statement.
we have to have good conversations and good lines of communication. There's very real realities, and I understand. I'm not going to give you an answer that you like sitting up here when I say 1, 2, and 4 that you mentioned are completely outside of the ability of the city to touch. That doesn't mean that I don't want to help you. So I think, and we've had these conversations offline to try to. I've reached out to try to get you in touch with folks that can help have these conversations. I have a friend who is on the. She's a state senator from Ferguson. Reaching out to her to see how are they having those conversations. How can you get these different lines moving together?
Local issue.
It is a local issue, and what's really frustrating for me at times, especially dealing with homeless.
Oppression is frustrating.
It is, and it's so frustrating for me to sit up here and not be able to have a better answer for you, and that's heartbreaking.
We have the answers.
All right, let's get another answer from another one of our candidates running for mayor. We're going to go to Chris, then we'll go to Paul.
This is the People's Radio broadcasting live from Common Life Church. As far as the demands made by the Unedited Black Coalition go, I would seek, as I've said earlier, the work sentencing option to get people out of the jail. I would seek the use of that money, that $8 million that they would have to put in brick and mortar somewhere. Let's build mental health facilities. I say close the solitary confinement. It's inhumane. I say that because if we take the people out, they won't need to renovate their facilities. They won't need the extra room. They'll have their room, and we want them to have a deficit of beds filled. That's what I want. And so, we need job training. We need. I'll pass off the rest of my time because I want to hear from Paul.
When I wanted to come back into office in 2011, the critics said that I didn't know what I was talking about. They were saying there are no troubled neighborhoods in Madison. I said the issue was economics, it was the city budget, and it was poverty and injustice. And it's been 3.5 difficult years trying to get alignment, trying to get a city council to go with me. When I said we didn't have enough money for all those commitments to overture because of Act 10, I had some real battles with the city council that were not enjoyable. But I'm not going to back off on those principles. I'm not going to back off on the notion of building neighborhood resource teams. The key there is the word resource. City staff doesn't run things. They are a resource to serve the people. That's what it's about. And so when the time came for teenagers at Owl Creek to come forward with a $300,000 proposal to finally get bus service, because some city council and some allow that development to be built with no transportation, total isolation for those families, we knew something was wrong, and that's how you change the system.
Thank you.
Let me answer your question. I'm gonna answer the question. Demand 1, 350 release? No. Demand 2, what was it? The other crazy one? What was it? Yes, what was it? I'll be honest.
Solitary confinement.
In solitary, or was that in solitary confinement? That might be okay, but when you talk about, I worked in the federal prison for 5 years, okay? In the system. And you know what? I was the only African American that worked in Oxford, Wisconsin, okay? And you know what? Thank God they have an Oxford, Wisconsin. I'm just gonna be honest. But 350, let's be realistic, but what I will do, I'll sit down, what I will do, I'm willing to sit down and talk to you and tell you how you can really make real progress in reducing these disparities.
But it's not our job to reduce it. It's y'all's job to reduce it. Yes.
And I'm willing to work with you. But what I'm telling you is, you have to bring solid issues. And I won't dance around it like everybody else. I will lead.
They said they couldn't end Jim Crow. Come on. They said they wouldn't end slavery. Talk about it.
All right. Have we heard from Scott?
Yes. We will not.
Okay.
It was a protest. Build the
All right.
people.
We're going to keep going.
So, Earlier today, I was in a conversation with a journalist who said the movement that's in front of us right now is the most powerful it's seen in 20 years. It's nearly brought her to tears. We had a serious conversation of where our community is going and what kind of direction. For the mayor to go out and say that the city council doesn't care, or we're heartless, to paint us in that light, to say that the only issue is the overture budget.
Come on.
We have so many bigger issues in this community. Now the reality is, we're going to be talking about a jail, and it's going to take conversations between the city and the county. I want to, and the people. And the people need to have a voice at the table. Their voice needs to be heard. You know, we are listening, and what it's going to be time is for what it's time for is action. It's time to actually sit down, start talking, and making sure that you feel like you have a spot in this community, that you feel like you belong. And I know if you were thought that everything was right in the world, you wouldn't be having these conversations right. We wouldn't be having these conversations right now.
All right, we're going to keep going and take questions. We are going to wrap the live broadcast radio segment at 8. That was our agreement. We will take as many questions as we can, and if we're willing, we're going to alternate, and then we'll go here and then there.
Thank you. Quick question. As mayor, without any more excuses or blame game, how long is it going to take this community to get a shelter for the homeless? And how are we going to address the infiltration of the criminal takeover of our community and really do something about it? Thank you.
All right, do you have anyone in particular in mind? All right.
Well, I don't see a criminal takeover of our communities going on, particularly. But the homeless shelter, I would love to address. That is one of my absolute top priorities. This is the reason that I have gotten into this race. I would propose that we close the downtown TIF district, that we open up $7.5 million for the school district, let them have it, they collected the money, it's theirs, and that will help them deal with their $10 million deficit. Madison School District is currently projecting a $10 million deficit. And so when this goes back to the earlier questions about how we're going to improve the opportunities for our students as well. And so with the remaining $5 million that the city will get, I say that we should build the shelter. I say that should be a very comprehensive shelter that should include a wet shelter, day shelter, night shelter, and service center. And if we have to use all $5 million to do it, I'm going to do it.
Does anyone else want to jump in on that question? Bridget.
Yeah, go on my website on the issues page, and I have an idea for the Salvation Army lot. That was in my district. I've been talking with their board members. You want a realistic timeline, Maria? I mean, I think if we could get a new shelter and day shelter, because I don't know if you're talking overnight shelter or day shelter. Realistically, we should have had some space downtown this year. That's not hard to get. I've gone through it twice with the day shelter and getting that commercial space flipped. The Salvation Army site, I think if you look at the other stuff on East Wash, you're looking at probably about a 2.5 year build out. I've been talking with their board members, especially in light of YWCA, doing a $10 capital campaign for their site, and talking with Salvation Army about what their priorities are. I very much like the idea of a centrally located day shelter, especially because Salvation Army is women and children, and I had a lot of families on the curb on Mifflin Street with men not allowed in the shelter. So I think having something that partners very closely geographically and in tandem with our existing services is the right way. I think you start it now, it's a 6-month process, and then there's the construction window.
A
couple of things to keep in mind. First of all, shelters are not the solution. The solution is permanent housing. Housing first, no questions asked. Provide the housing, and then we move on to deal with the other issues, whether there's substance abuse, whether it's job training, education, mental illness. But the solution is permanent housing. Now, there's an average of over $4 million projected in this year's budget and all the subsequent budgets towards that end to build 1,000 units over the next 5 years. Where are we going to get some of that money? We're going to go where the city failed for many years, which is to use WIDA-eligible tax credits, and you don't close out a TIF district. What you do is you extend the life 1 year because there's a state law that we will use that now allows us to take the money from the TIF district, not spend it just within the district, but wherever we want for affordable housing, housing for the homeless, housing for working families. The answer on the shelter is unfortunate with the county, and they screwed it up. We had a site in the city, we were agreeable to it, and they blew it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right, let's take one more question.
Okay, I'll be real quick. It's a two-part question for Richard and Scott. And this is the next one question for Scott. Do you have any African Americans working in your company? Yes. Okay. Richard, I already heard you say after I heard you say it, all of a sudden you can catch words for all the other things. Could you explain and expound on your initiative?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple of components, but one of them is that one, we could have, we talk about shelters, we could have revolving shelters. So if we get deep into the community and we partnership with these faith-based organizations, which I got a meeting coming up, I think it was supposed to be in the 10th, so we're working on it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but a bunch of faith-based organizations, and we're going to talk about things that happen. But one thing, for example, if we have a place like, let's say, for example, we look at Mount Zion Church, and we look at a church like that, and across the street we have housing, city housing, that's in bad shape. Why not just sell the housing to that organization? They create a nonprofit, just like all other nonprofits, and they create a program where they can work, they can tear it down, they can rebuild it, you can train employees to be the plumbers, the electricians, and everything you have to do. And at the end of 2 years, you got economic development, you got a zone, you got everything, now you're building. So, you know, just little things like that. We can do that all over the city, on all these little places. So it's a big economic thing. It hits a lot of the disparities.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We are at the end of the radio portion of tonight, our broadcast. I want to thank everyone, all of our candidates for here tonight. I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank the excellent staff here at Fountain of Life who helped put this together, who worked so hard to make this happen. I want to thank all of our co-sponsors and all of our staff here at WORT. We had more than a dozen people working at the station to bring this together, including all of our fabulous tech and sound and camera and web and everything that it took to bring this to you. So thank you very much for joining us. And please remember to vote. If you need more information, the League of Women Voters are out in the lobby and can connect you. I'm Molly Stentz with WORT, and if folks want to stay, we can continue this informally, but we're signing off from Radio Land. Thanks.